Welcome to the Drive Idaho podcast, episode number 2. Hi, my name is Vince Trimboli. I am the manager for the Idaho Transportation Department's Office of Communication, and it's my pleasure to host these podcasts. The Drive Idaho podcast is a new communication channel for ITD. We release these podcasts on a monthly basis, and for at least this first year, we will use this forum to help better educate the public and our stakeholders on all things I-84 in Canyon County. Here's what's on tap for this episode. As you may know, for the next half decade, ITD is set to expand Idaho's busiest interstate corridor with much-needed improvements on 84 from Nampa to Caldwell. ITD Program Manager Amy Schroeder will talk to us about congestion, its impacts on safety, the economy, travel times, and why we must address it. We also will chat with ITD Resident Engineer for the Southwest Idaho area, Jayme Coonce. Jayme will tell us what's happening with the Karcher Overpass construction. It's the first major project on the list for expansion. And did you know that it's a bridge? Well, Jayme will shed more light on that in just a moment. For the more than $300 million 84 corridor project, the Drive Idaho podcast is just one of many communication channels. You can find out information all the time and from any device on our project website, itdprojects.org/84 corridor. If you have questions or comments, we can always be reached via email 84corridor@itd.idaho.gov. To sign up to receive regular information updates, text 84 corridor to 22828. That's text 84 corridor to 22828. And if you're like me and you prefer the old-fashioned thing called a conversation, feel free to give us a call at 208-334-8002. That's 208-334-8002. You can find the Drive Idaho podcast on iTunes, Spotify, on our website, itdprojects.org/84 corridor, and YouTube. We monitor all of these communication channels on a daily basis and stand ready to respond. Speaking of public input, the Idaho Transportation Department hosted 2 separate open houses last month for the public to learn more about the planned improvements for the interstate in Canyon County. The construction we just mentioned on the Karcher Overpass is the first phase of work. It will go from Karcher to Franklin Boulevard in Nampa and covers around 2.5 miles. The open houses focused on the preferred alternative for the area of Karcher Interchange in Nampa to the Franklin Road Interchange in Caldwell. That's the other major phase of work, and it will cover around 5.5 miles. Attendees had the opportunity to review and comment on the proposed improvements. These include a third travel lane, replacement bridges for Middleton, Ustick, and Linden Road, and modifications to the Karcher Interchange. More than 200 people attended the 2 open houses, and here's what they had to say about the project estimated to cost more than $300 million.
I think you should keep it up. The input's good, and I like coming out and seeing what's happening. It's better than watching something in a local newspaper. Yeah. So you get a better, this is a good idea right here. Everybody should come out there and walk this road and see what you're doing.
Well, when the project's done, I think it's going to be a big positive. I myself am a commuter from Boise, and so just having an extra lane on the freeway will help immensely, especially when weather conditions get bad.
It affects me. I drive 5 days a week, sometimes 6 days a week. In the early hours, I am going westbound. I drive a semi and I pull 2 trailers. In the afternoon, I am headed back east from Oregon, and so I deal with a lot heavier traffic. I see a lot more accidents because of the amount of traffic and the congestion that's caused by it. So, yeah, I'm excited to see this alleviated.
Construction for the Karcher Road to Franklin Road interchanges is anticipated to begin in 2021. In the meantime, construction of the first phase will begin in earnest next month. This is the Drive Idaho podcast. Time now for our first of 2 interviews. Joining me is ITD Resident Engineer Jayme Coonce. She has been with ITD for 18 years and worked on more than 40 projects. It will be the job of Jayme and her team to manage the first major project of the 84 corridor expansion. Welcome, Jayme.
Thank you. Hi.
Thanks for joining us. And the first question I want to ask is, Can you tell folks what is a resident engineer? What is your title? What do you do?
So a resident engineer technically is the person in responsible charge. So my name is in the contract. However, I certainly have a very large team of people who will assist me in managing and inspecting and testing this construction project as I do on all of mine.
So you have engineers on your team, right? Other engineers?
Yeah. So I have a team of engineers. They'll manage the day-to-day correspondence and activities that go on the project. But I also have testing technicians that will inspect and test the materials as they go in.
Right, so they're testing the concrete, they're making sure that the bridge is being built to specs or the road, whatever you guys are working on. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Every component that goes in, we have looked at or tested.
Well, let's talk about your next big project. Jayme, looking ahead, what is the first step of widening the interstate between Nampa and Caldwell?
So ITD is replacing the Karcher Road Overpass, which will replace several bridges along the corridor, as we know that there are. The railroad bridges, the North Side Interchange, Mason Creek Bridge, the Middleton, Ustick, and Linden Road bridges are all in that corridor, so they will all need to be replaced since they are not wide enough to carry the extra lanes on the interstate.
Talk about some specifics of the Karcher Overpass construction, and I know there's a big demolition project as part of that.
So the first step in the process would be to demo the existing bridge. We anticipate that to be a couple nights, 2 nights, and during that time, the interstate will be detoured to the local roads in the area using the 2 interchanges on either side of Karcher Road, which are Karcher Interchange and Northside Boulevard Interchange. It's fast. We rubbleize the existing bridge, bring it down, haul it off in 1 or 2 nights. So.
And it'll just be nights. You'll do demolition
Right.
at night, reopen it for the day's commute, then close it down again, finish up the demolition.
Correct,
right?
yeah. So it's from 10 o'clock at night to 7 a.m. on the weekend.
What other things can people expect during the Karcher Overpass project?
So for sure, we'll keep the local businesses in the area. The access to those will be open at all times. Karcher Road will actually be closed for the 9 months that we anticipate this project to run. And there will be detours for Karcher Road itself, but the businesses will certainly remain open.
It's an overpass, but it's really a bridge, right? I mean, a lot of people don't realize that a bridge doesn't have to go over water, right?
Correct, yeah. I mean, it's an overpass. Sometimes overpasses are over water, sometimes they're over bridges, sometimes they're over other roads, sometimes they're under other roads. So this one just happens to be an overpass of the interstate.
How exciting is a project of this magnitude that kicks off an overall project that is of such a large magnitude for you and your team?
It is very exciting because we're on the front end of it. You know, we get to be the first ones in the public eye, and for the public to see us out there making progress on this very important corridor for us.
Now, will people be able to watch this demolition, or is this something we ask people to kind of stay away from because it's dangerous?
You know, certainly the traveling public, the interstate will be detoured. It's not safe to be in the area. We don't really invite the public to come on site and watch.
And I know for your viewing pleasure, we'll do some time-lapse photography and try to capture it so we can put it out to the public so they can see it in that kind of a cool time-lapse frame.
We do set up people in safe locations with video cameras sometimes, and sometimes even drones to watch that, and so it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that'll be really cool. Well, Jayme, thanks. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
I know you'll be working on a lot of the projects with your team. So thanks for taking the time to be here today.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Our next interview is with Amy Schroeder. Amy has been with ITD for 15 years and is the Transportation Program Manager overseeing all the work on the 84 corridor projects. Amy joined us last month, and we welcome her back again.
Hi, Vince.
So, Amy, we're going to have a discussion today with you about congestion. So, what do you describe as congestion on a roadway?
Well, what most people experience is when they can't drive the speed limit, or it's hard to make a lane change, and they have to share the highway or the interstate with a lot of other people. That's a congested situation.
What are the factors that cause congestion?
Oh, there's a number of things that play into it, Vince. Demographics and land use and where people want to build their home and where they recreate, where they work, the trips that they make. It all adds to the level of congestion that you'll see on a facility.
The intent of the interstate when it was built in the 1960s is no longer the same intent, right? I mean, the needs for the interstate have changed, right? That also plays in congestion, is that right?
It's what we're addressing with this project, definitely. When the interstate was built in the mid-'60s, it went around Boise and around Caldwell and Nampa, and now these communities have grown up around it. So while a 2-lane road in each direction is still adequate in the rural areas, either west of Caldwell or east of Boise, it's no longer sufficient through the urban area. Economic opportunity or commerce is actually one of the department's missions. It's economic opportunity as well as safety and mobility. So can we talk a little bit about each of those? Just to the point of economic opportunity, each year I-84 carries $88 billion of freight. And that's locally from the distribution center to your grocery store, and it's also regionally, say from a port on the Pacific coast in outside of Portland, getting all the way down to Salt Lake and back. So it has both local and regional impacts for freight and for economic benefit. And here locally, over 600 businesses and almost 38,000 jobs are reliant on I-84 through the Treasure Valley.
The Idaho Transportation Department has a mission. It's your safety, your mobility, and your economic opportunity. So talk about all of those factors and their role in congestion.
Yeah, thank you for asking, Vince. I mean, this project really does hit all three of those points. On congestion, I don't know how many people realize that Nampa's population has more than tripled since 1990, and that's 5 times the national average rate of growth. That alone makes us need to look at the I-84 corridor, what improvements need to be made to serve that community. To the point of safety, the second mission statement, we are anticipating a 40% reduction in crashes by implementing these projects, by widening the interstate to 3 lanes and auxiliary lanes, and by modernizing that route. To the point of economic opportunity, there are more than 600 businesses and almost 38,000 jobs in the region that are reliant on the I-84 corridor, and there is $88 billion of freight that is moved on the I-84 corridor every year.
Yeah, and you talk about the impact that it has in the Treasure Valley and Idaho, and then you start to talk a little bit about the regional impact. The 84 corridor is a major player in the region.
It is. I-84 is the only designated freight route in Idaho. I know there's freight on other roadways, but it's a major freight corridor connecting the ports in Seattle and Portland and the coast to Salt Lake and back.
Yeah, and other places inland, right? It goes from Salt Lake into Denver and maybe even across the Mississippi and other points in the country. So
yeah, absolutely.
It's a huge player. The director of ITD, Brian Ness, always likes to say that you got to have good roads in Idaho if you want to get a baked potato to Washington, D.C. He says that when he talks to lawmakers, so they understand the importance of moving goods from the state of Idaho across the country.
It's very true.
Well, that's great. Thanks, Amy, for helping us clear up the congestion, so to speak. Let's move now to our listener mail and all of our podcasts. In the last one and everyone moving forward, we are going to take 3 questions from listeners, questions on the I-84 corridor. We'll start with this one for you, Amy. Will there be a new interchange between Nampa and Caldwell?
Yeah, I think we covered this last month too, Vince, so I encourage listeners to check out our last podcast. We are focused on expanding the I-84 corridor and everything that goes into that. At this point, it's more important to get the 3rd lane in each direction to Caldwell than to build that interchange, and so it's needed in the future. It's just beyond our design year.
And that question, we threw it out again because it was asked several times. Let's move on now to our second question, Amy. Will ITD incorporate a merge or a drop lane at the Karcher interchange, similar to Franklin Boulevard in Nampa?
So the short answer, Vince, is no, there will not be a left-hand merge at the Karcher interchange. We'll have 3 lanes through Nampa all the way to Caldwell, and there will be an auxiliary lane between the Northside interchange and the Karcher interchange that will terminate at Karcher. So we'll have 3 lanes through.
All right, our final question, Amy. For how many years will the new lanes between Nampa and Caldwell serve the traffic needs of the community?
This is a little bit of a tricky question. And the reason I say that is in our traffic modeling, we are forecasting that these improvements will work beyond 2045. That is our design horizon, which is 20 years beyond the improvements being constructed. So the reason I say it's a tricky answer is there's a lot of things that could affect that time frame. if the area grows faster than anticipated, if more people move into the area, if freight and commerce and agriculture pick up in the area, it could shorten the lifespan. But we're currently forecasting these improvements will provide an adequate level of service through the design year of 2045.
Well, that's great. We appreciate the answers. And as always, Amy, we appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Vince.
We will conclude every single one of our Drive Idaho podcasts with a safety message. If you haven't noticed, a powerful band of winter storms ripped through our entire state this past few weeks. The effects of the heavy snows and high winds left huge drifts, created low visibility, and it flat out made driving dangerous for our plow truck operators and the public. While our maintenance crews worked hard to keep up with the storms, we had to close roads at times for the public safety and that of our hardworking employees. We also did our best to communicate the road closures, but the best way for people to know, our citizens to know about road closures, is not ITD's Twitter feed or Facebook or a news release. The safest bet for the public is to keep yourself informed. If you plan to travel, please use 511.idaho.gov before you leave. Winter and summer, know before you go. Having the information relaxes drivers and will give you a peace of mind knowing what roads are in the worst condition during the winter or what the traffic might look like on your morning commute because of construction. I always say we can communicate as much as we want as an Office of Communication, and we know our work helps, but it's always the driver's responsibility to keep themselves safe and informed while on the road. 511.idaho.gov is a great safety tool, so you are informed about what lies ahead on Idaho's highways. Well, that's going to do it for our second edition of the Drive Idaho podcast. To learn more about the Idaho Transportation Department, please visit us anytime from anywhere at itd.idaho.gov. Also, join the conversation on Facebook and Twitter. Thank you for listening. I'm your host, Vince Trimboli. Please be safe. 2 hands on the wheel, eyes on the road, and your mind on driving.